Quote Chris Letang after that puck went into that net. Oh my God. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Coyotes 5, Penguins 2. The winning goal was scored by Evgeny Malkin with a primary assist from Letang, and it had to be seen to be believed. Those of you who've been following the franchise for longer than just a handful of years will know that the living legend Mike Lang had this 100% habit of giving the viewer or listener a warning anytime the Penguins were operating in front of their own net and it had been vacated for the purposes of getting an extra attacker on the ice. Of course, a delayed penalty. That got to be careful, got to watch it, got to be careful. And because Lang would say this forever and ever, it was ingrained in me as a child to be aware of this situation, meaning just as someone who was watching. And there it went. There it went. The team that loves nothing more than the drop pass made maybe 10 of them in a row until it finally ended up in their own net. It was the most perfect, painful microcosm of this season conceivable. It was unbelievable and yet not at all. Watching these guys go from a Brian Rust rush at one end, Connor Ingram making the save, Rust gets tripped up, there's a penalty coming. From then on, every single Penguin who touched the puck went progressively backward, either with a pass or via skating. And they just kept backing up until, most unfortunately, they ran out of end boards. They were forced to go a little bit forward, and then Letang turned around inside his own blue line and went backward, threw a drop pass to Gino, and the puck was going to go a little bit wide of the net, but Gino reaches out and doesn't really give it a total effort, just presuming that because he's so spectacularly talented that the puck is just going to follow him like a yo-yo on a string, and it didn't. It went off the heel of his backhand with one hand on the stick, one hand on the stick, and into the net. The Arizona player who was credited with the goal, Austin Krause, was on the bench and seated at the time the puck went in. Think about that for a second. The official score sheet out of Mullet Arena shows that the Coyotes scored PP/EN, power play empty net. Clip and save that one. You will never, ever see it again. At least not until the next time the Penguins realize that there's always a drop pass available. This was what Letang had to say after the game about that sequence.
Well, if you look at it, my pass was going in the corner. It was not going in the net. So, but I should know better. I should not go backward when there's no goalie, I guess.
I've covered Letang for a lot of years. I've gotten to know the man pretty well. I know when he's not taking blame. Okay, so when you hear him say, I guess, after a couple of those sentences, he's letting you know. He's making it really, really easy to hear that he's not taking the blame. I guess I shouldn't have made that drop pass. I mean, it was, you saw that it was going wide. I guess. Look, I'm not criticizing Letang for his response. I think he's right. Of course, you don't want to see a drop pass there, but my goodness, it doesn't have to end up in your net. All of which was better than Gino's response. Taylor Haas, our reporter for DK Pittsburgh Sports, who was in Tempe, asked Gino if he'd answer questions. No, came the answer. All right, then. All right. Let's have some accountability, kids. And that, just like that, is 4 losses in 5 games. It's a lousy, awful, miserable, multiple time zone, so at least it was long, road trip. And every time you think the Penguins might be taking a step forward, they take 2 or 3 back, which, is kind of how they pass the puck. If I sound like I'm getting exasperated by this operation in general, I am. These aren't encouraging sequences. If anything, and I said this in fairness, after the 3-0 shutout of the Kraken when they came in here with the 9-game winning streak, if anything, it drives you that much more crazy to know that they can do that they kind of want to do that, but they absolutely, steadfastly refuse to adopt the style of play that they need in order to contend. And you're going to have to trust me, that's not occurring at the coaching level. This isn't a situation where you could bring in a Patrick Waugh and have everybody get reamed out. This is a group that right now, just like Gino in that moment, thinks they're better than they are at the age at which they're playing. And that's a big, big, big problem. So big that I can't even name a number 2 on the list. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Ed, who says, DK, this has to be the crater-deep lowest point for a power play that seemingly doesn't produce anything but low points, right? Well, Ed, I'm not sure it gets a whole lot worse than shooting the puck into your own net. I mean, I don't even know what to do with this other than to joke about it. But here's the cold truth on this. Because after I got your question, I went and looked up that the Penguins are now 0 for their past 19 on the power play. Did you notice that? Maybe kind of passively or below the surface. Did you notice that? Because they're not getting anything done. Some of the methods that they implemented when Valtteri Puustinen came up, remember, to break the last streak? Some of those are still in play. There's a lot of work across the points. There's a lot of umbrella. And yeah, they're shooting. They're getting the puck, at least in the direction of the net. They just aren't scoring. And along the way, because they're so awesomely skilled and have so much experience and so much know-how and so much awareness of how they could get away with a 48% effort, they continue to give up odd man breaks, clean breakaways. My goodness, they made Nick Bjugstad look like Pavel Bure last night. And this, I'm not ready to give up on this season. I'm not ready to give up on this power play. I'm definitely not ready to give up on this coach. But the more that this goes on, and the more that Yevgeny Malkin in particular is at the center of it, the more you're going to see, hear, and read people outside the organization, and maybe you're one of them, who feel like, hey, maybe this is time, because this isn't making sense. I mentioned on a show last week that I thought Gino has been the weakest link on the power play. That's not picking on him. That's not isolating on him because he's a Russian. I really, really hate that when that happens. It's because he's been terrible. He's been operating with a rubber blade. He's losing the puck left and right. He's shooting it wide, and it's rimming around the boards and coming all the way out. He's not getting anything done on that power play. Somebody else, and it's a long list of somebody else's, would be of better use right now to the top unit. But what ends up happening, some of that boy, I'm so good I can't possibly make a mistake, and even if I do make a mistake, I'm going to be able to recover from it mentality has to be gone. That doesn't mean I'm advocating for a guy with a no movement clause to be moved, let alone Gino being who he is. But something has to happen to begin the process of exorcising that specific demon from this organization. The team that played against Seattle last week had everyone on board committed to one approach. The team that went out west just tried to out-Penguins, their opponents. And I say that with respect to the first two periods in Las Vegas, which were kind of a continuation of the Seattle game. But that third period blew it all up, so scratch that one off the list as well. Something significant has to change, and it can't just be the occasional really rousing, thorough win over a good team. There's got to be, man, I can't even bring myself to say it. Something's got to change. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.